When we want to state restrictions, we have a few restrictions that we have to worry about here. The first one that we're going to deal with is this divide by 0. So we're going to say that x cannot be equal to positive 3 over 2. Okay, so that's the first restriction. We have another restriction in the base. Okay, the base cannot be negative or equal to 1. So we can, from that base, we're going to say that x must be greater than 0 and x cannot be equal to 1. And then lastly, we have the restriction inside the log argument. It has to be positive. Okay, so we have to then say that x must be greater than 3. Can't be equal to 3, has to be greater than 3. So then putting all these together, we're going to group all these together. We know that it has to be greater than 3. So that's going to be redundant with this one and this one. And greater than 0. So then our final restriction is just going to end up being x is greater than 3. But we have to be aware of the restrictions that happen in the 3 different spots. For B, we have restrictions here. We have to worry about all the divide by zeros due to the reciprocal trig ratios and the quotient ratio of tan, and also the denominator. So I'm going to start with the denominator. So we're going to say that tan x is not equal to 1. Okay, if tan x is not equal to 1, then we know that our slope is 1 in these 2 points. So x cannot equal pi over 4 plus n pi. Okay, so those are going to be all the restrictions on the divide by 0. We also have to worry about the tan, because a tan has a denominator of cosine. So we end up with cosine x is not equal to 0. And cosine x not equal to 0. Cosine is horizontal here and here. So x cannot equal pi over 2 plus n pi. So every time it hits those 2 points, it's going to be a restriction. And then lastly, we have this secant. Well, secant is cosine in the denominator. So again, we end up with cosine x not equal to 0, and it's redundant with the blue solution that we've shown here, but we do have to make sure that we check that the secant, the denominator of secant, or secant itself, being a reciprocal function, 1 over cos, we have to check that cosine cannot be equal to 0 as well.